Hello guys, and welcome to the 27th tutorial, I believe, in the PHP programming tutorial series. Now I apologise for this short break. I think it's been about a week or two since I uploaded the video, but I've been experiencing some severe internet problems lately. I'm in the process of having them fixed, so I should be back properly in no time. But before I start this tutorial, I wanted to just say that 2 days ago on Halloween was the 2-year anniversary of my channel. So 2 years since I registered this account. It's been quite an exciting experience to go up to so many subscribers, so I'd like to thank everyone for that. But enough of that, enough of the random talk. Let's go into the tutorial. Now in the previous tutorial we learned about MySQL, and we learned how to basically use PHP on the browser to add a table, to add entries into that table. But in this tutorial we're going to learn the first step, which is adding a table through a MySQL query, and we're going to do that through PHP. So what you need to do is make sure that your XAMPP is running and open up PHP and log in. And in the previous tutorial we created this users table, and basically what we're going to do in this tutorial is we're going to create this users table, but we're going to do it just through PHP code. So we're going to create it called users2. Okay, so let's start off. Open up Notepad++ and just create your file. We'll call it table.php. And what we're going to do is, if you remember the final part of the previous tutorial, we learned how to connect to a MySQL database, and we're going to do that in this tutorial, but we will store that in a variable. So we'll create a variable called accounts. Just do that, and then just give it the value of MySQL_connect. And if you remember, the 3 parameters we need are, first of all, the host, which is localhost, the username, which in my case is root, in your case it's whatever you set the username to, and the third parameter is the password, which is just password for my test server right now. And after that we can type or die, and in question mark MySQL underscore error, and that will just show the MySQL error if any of these are wrong. Okay, so now that we've just gone back over the code that we went through in the previous tutorial, let's just save this, and we will go to, we call it table.php, and you'll see there's no errors, and that means all good to go, it connected. So the next thing we need to do is select the table. Now if you go back over here, if you remember, we created, let's go back to the root of the PHP we created a database called accounts, which is right here. So we click on that, and our table was in here. So the next thing we need to do is select the database, and we can use this, so we can do this using the MySQL_select_db, and then all we need to do in brackets is select the first parameter, which is the actual name of the database. In our case it is accounts. You might have named yours something different, and then put a comma, and the second parameter is going to be our connection, which we've got up here as the variable accounts. So put $accounts, forgetting my dollar signs there. Okay, so we can have our semicolon there, and now onto the part where we do our MySQL query. So down here, first of all, going to create a variable here called SQL, and this is going to hold the actual query that we're going to put into the into PHP and down here we're going to write our code MySQL_query, and in here in MySQL query we need 2 parameters. The first parameter is the actual query that we're going to run on the server. So the first parameter here, it could be in plain text, but in our case it's going to be a variable. This first parameter tells MySQL what to do, and then the second parameter is our connection, which is accounts. Okay, so right now this doesn't do anything because this query SQL is blank. We haven't specified any sort of query inside here, and the query we're going to create today is going to be to create a table. So we can do that by simply using the keyword create. So inside the 2 quotation marks, type create, and then just have a space, and then we need to type table because we could be creating a database, but in this case we're creating a table. So type create table, and after that we need to give the table a name, and what was it called? users. Okay, so we're going to create this as users2. So far we're telling MySQL, we're saying create a table and call it users2. So what we need to do next, in brackets, well actually we'll put this onto different lines. As I said, you know, it's read statement by statement, not line by line, so lines don't mean anything. We're going to create 2 brackets because the information about this table is held inside of brackets. And what we can do now is specify different parts of the table and separate them with a comma. So the way we can declare a field in this table is simply by first typing the name of that field. And if we go back to here, let's click on structure, we can see we have all the information about the different fields in this table. So we open Notepad++, the first one was ID, so we'll just type ID, and then you put a space, and then you need to specify the data type, and as ID is a number, you type int, which stands for integer. And the next thing we need to do, we need to specify this to be not null, because if this is null, then it will just be null the whole time. But because we want it to auto increment, we need every one of the IDs to have its own little number, so we need to type not space null in capitals, and MySQL will recognize this as saying that we don't want it to be null. And then the final thing we need to specify for this is to auto increment it, so we just type auto underscore increment, and then that's what this line here does. Is this create a table called ID. It says that the data type is integer, we want it to be not null, and we also want to auto increment this every time. And then all we do is add a comma, and we can go into the next line, and the next bit is, you know, fairly simple. We're going to specify the primary key for the table, so all you need to do is type primary space key, and in bracket we want to specify the field that we want as a primary key, and in this case it's ID as we've typed out here. Then put a comma, and in the next parameter we're going to create our other tables, our other fields. So this one was pretty difficult to create because we wanted it to be not null and we wanted to auto increment it, but the next few ones are going to be pretty simple because all we want to do is just create a simple field as a varchar. So if we go here, we have username, password, first, last, and about. So all we need to do is go into Notepad++, and the first thing we're going to create is a username, I believe it was. Yeah, let's check. Yeah, username. So all we need to do, as we did with the ID one, is type username, and this just tells that we want the field name to be username. And then all we need to do is type varchar and 20 in brackets, and that is just saying the data type is varchar, just like we specified an integer up here. And since we don't need any of these, it doesn't need to be not null unless you want to specify it as not null, and it doesn't need to auto increment. So now we can just put a comma and go to the next item, and this would be password, I'm guessing, and it's the same thing, password varchar 20, and then a comma, then first, what was it, first as varchar 20, comma, and then last varchar 20, and we don't need a comma for our last entry. So I've just pretty much run through all that without explaining much, but now because it was quite a chunky bit of code, I wanted to just type it all out, you know, as you're typing it out, and now we can go through it. So if you go to the first line, what we've typed, this is simply storing the MySQL connection with localhost, root, and password in the variable accounts. And the next line that we've typed is MySQL select DB, and in brackets we have accounts and the variable accounts, and all this line does is select the database named accounts from the connection of accounts, which is this, what we've connected here. And this isn't actually a MySQL query, this is just a normal string variable, and all we're doing in here is typing out our query that we want to perform. And I've actually missed out a semicolon there, my mistake. And all this does is holds the information what we want to put into here. So let's just go over it quickly. The first thing we do is type the keyword create and table, so we're telling it we want to create a table, and we give it the name users2, and then in brackets and separated by commas we specify each field of that table, and we can, the first thing we type is the name of the field and then the data type, and we've done that just name and data type, name, data type for most of these, but because we needed to specify some special rules for the ID like not null and auto increment, we've just typed them out right after it there. So the final line actually runs the MySQL query, which is MySQL underscore query, and in brackets it has the actual query as the first parameter, which is held in this SQL variable, and then the name of the connection, which is accounts, in the second parameter. And I'll put my semicolon there, and that should now work for us. It should now create the table. Hit save and go to table.php, and if we go over back to the accounts database, we now have users 2 right here. So we can just look at the structure, and we have all of these here, all of the things we created that should be identical, I think, and we can just easily where is it? We can just put entries into this database. I'm not familiar with this version of PHP MyAdmin, so I think it's import, or no, it's not, it's insert actually, sorry. We can just insert values into the database, so you know, ID is blank as with the other ones, username, you know, Bob, password 123 again, first name Bob, and last name I don't know, Johnson. Hit go, and they've all inserted correctly. So we go back here to accounts and users 2. We now have the entry right here. So that was the second MySQL tutorial on how to create a table using MySQL query in PHP. In the next tutorial we're going to look at how to insert values into a table through PHP, which is probably what you've all been waiting for. It's probably the most useful part of PHP and MySQL. So thanks for watching this video. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to leave a comment. I will answer all your questions. Click like on the video and add to favorites, and also don't forget to click that subscribe button to have instant updates on every single video.